Hi, today we are going to look at the match function. In principle, what the match function does is it returns the row number in the table where the value that you're looking for is stored. It takes in three arguments, first of which is the lookup value, and that's a required argument. It can be either a cell or a value. Next, it takes in the lookup array, which is also a required argument, and it can be either a range or an array. The third argument is optional, and it is the match type. If the argument is omitted or we pass over 1, then it will return the largest value that is less than or equal to the lookup value. If we pass over 0, then it will return the exact match to the value that we are looking for. In case of -1, it will find the smallest value that is greater than or equal to what we are looking for. Now, there is a bit of a catch here because sorting in case of 1 and -1 matters. In case of 1, the sorting has to be ascending for it to work, and in case of -1, passed as an argument to the match type, the sorting has to be descending. Now, for the purpose of today's meeting, I've prepared a couple of scenarios that we can go through. First, you will notice I've prepared the row numbers here so that we can easily verify the result. So let's jump in. Let's say we are looking for 4. We can type in match, tab to autocomplete, and now we can either pass the argument, as I said, as a value, so type it in, or we can select a cell. In our case, we will do that because that's a good practice, since if you have a lot of formulas, it can get a bit confusing to manually adjust the values. Next, you need the separator. The separator depends on what you have set in your regional settings. Now, next we need to pass on the range that we are looking in, and here comes the first important part and the source of many errors. Because obviously we can select either the entire column, we can select the range with the headers or without the headers. Let's start with selecting with the headers. And now we want to pass on 1 as our match type argument. Now, as you can see, it returned the row number 4, which is clearly wrong because in row 4 we have the value 6. The reason for that is that we selected the headers. So Excel is counting like 1, 2, 3, 4. If we change that, so if we change the range here to exclude the header, we will get the correct row number. And this is the first source of errors. Let's now look at what happens if we look for a value that is actually not in our table. So let's, for instance, say we are looking for 5. The row returned is 3, so the number 4. Since we are looking for the largest value that is less than or equal to what we are looking for. Similarly, if I type in 8, which is also not in our values list, I will get row number 5, which refers to the value 7, which is the first largest value that is less than 8, since 8 is not present. If I type in 9, then it will return the exact match for the value because the condition here is less than or equal. Now, in the reverse scenario, so if we want to look for the value that is greater than or equal, the first value that is greater than or equal, let's start with 4. Let's type in match. Of course, we will pass on the cell as an argument. Then we need to pass on our range / array, and then we want to type in -1 as the match type argument. In this case, since 4 is present, it returned the row number 5 because 4 is here. If I type in 5, which is not present in the table, I will get row number 4, which results in the value 6, because this is the first value that is smallest but greater than or equal to what we are looking for. Similarly, if we type in 8, we will get the row number 2, so the value 9. Now, the trick is that when looking for the exact matches, so let's again start with number 4, which is present in the data set, and let's type in 0 as the argument, so an exact match. We get the line number 5, which is spot on because in the line number 5, value 4 is stored. But in this scenario, when I type in a value that is not in my list, I will get the not available error. Now, you can use the match function not only for numbers and comparing whether if something is smaller or greater, or the first smallest or first greatest number than what you are looking for. You can use it for looking for text as well. So let's type in here Bill, which clearly is on our list under the row number 4. Let's start by typing match. Again, tab to autofill. Let's select our cell with the value. Let's select our range. And in this case, of course, we want the exact match. So Bill is in row number 4, which is spot on. Now, if we change that to Anna, and please observe that we have 2 Annas, and regardless of which value I take, Excel will always return the first found value, so the row number for the first found value. And this can be a problem because when you have large data sets, you will need to introduce a second set of arguments. But to do that, first let's look at how Excel is actually comparing those values in the background. So what happens here is Excel is comparing the value that we typed in with the value in each cell. Of course, so the values don't move, we need to freeze them. And if we drag our formula, you will see that it returns true only for those 2 cases. So what Excel is doing here is it picking up the first true value. And this will matter in just a second because we will look at the match function with multiple lookup values and multiple arrays that we are looking for. So for now, bear in mind that true is equal to 1 and false is equal to 0. Let's start with a simple example in the scenario 5. So we will use an example that is only one time in our database. And now we need to type in match. And here is the change. We will be looking for 1, so the value true. And we need to specify the first set of conditions. So we need the name Bill to be equal to the first range of our data. Now we need to multiply that by the second name equal to the second set of our data. And of course, in this case, we want the exact match. If we type this in, we get the number 4, which is line 4, which is actually spot on. But let's see what happens when we select a row that has the values duplicated. So in terms of the first name, as you can see, we have 2 Annas. So unlike this case, Excel is spot on because based on our 2 conditions, it found the correct row number. Now, the interesting part here is how this happens. So let's look at a breakdown of this. In the first step, we are looking for the first name equal to the value here, of course, so that it doesn't move. We need to freeze the cell. Now let's drag it over, and as you will see, we will get true in both of those cases, exactly like here. Now, the second step is that we compare this name, of course, freezing it, with the second set of values. And here's the magic of using match with multiple criteria. As you can see, we get true in only one of the lines. And what happens in the background and the reason for multiplying and the reason for having one here is that false as 0 gets multiplied by the other false as 0, resulting in 0. And if I drag it through, you see that only in one of those lines Excel returns 1. Now, in our last scenario, we will look at using match with wildcards, because imagine what happens when you have only part of the value that you're looking for and you want to return the first or the only occurrence of that value. So like before, if I type in Anna, or let's take Bill. If I type in Bill here and I use the match function like we did a second ago, so I pass on the value, I pass the array, and I do an exact match, it will return the row number 4. But what happens if I have only a part of this name? And as you can see, it will result in an error. Now, to mitigate that, we can use wildcards, and there are two types of wildcards. The first type of wildcard is the question mark. So to add a wildcard, we need to say and then the question mark. Now, why this doesn't work is because the question mark replaces only one character, and when you use the asterisk, it returns the number 4 because the asterisk is responsible for passing over to Excel, give me multiple characters after this part of text. If we wanted to do that with question marks, knowing that we are expecting 2 letters after Bill, we would have to use 2 question marks. Now, similarly, as in the previous example, if I type in Anne, it will return the first occurrence of Anna. And again, if I don't know the specific count of characters, I can use a wildcard that is the asterisk. And it will also result in the number 5. So guys, here is a bit of a breakdown of the match formula. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it helpful. So take care and see you in the next video.